Surrounded by steel and razor wire fencing, thousands of refugees are literally lining up on the border between Hungary and Serbia to get into the European Union. This is the Röszke border crossing. The area is heavily guarded. Soldiers patrol around the clock. The media are not welcome. A police officer immediately orders us to switch off our camera. So we move on and film these refugees who have made it through and can now apply for asylum in Hungary. It's normally a basic human right in the EU, but here it's a privilege accorded to only 15 people a day. A few meters away on the Serbian side of the fence, some 800 refugees are holding out, living in horrendous conditions. They've been waiting in the so-called transit zone for weeks. One of them is 37-year-old Haif from Afghanistan.
We are live to this tent. All tent is dirty.
He takes us around the camp and tells us about his journey. Like many here, he fled from Afghanistan to escape the attacks of the Taliban. His wife and children are living in hiding back in Afghanistan. He was on the road for 6 months, and now he's stuck here.
You don't have bedroom, you don't have shower, you don't have good food, you don't have water. You have big problem to this camp.
New refugees are constantly arriving, so Haif believes the waiting time at the border will get longer. In desperation, some people, like these young guys from Afghanistan, have sought to get over the fence illegally.
We got over the fences into Hungary. There were 30 of us. 100 meters beyond the fence, 15 got arrested. The rest ran for 4 hours but were chased by a helicopter. We were all arrested and immediately deported.
Hungary has actually passed a new law to legitimize this procedure. It defines an 8-kilometer zone behind the Hungarian border. If refugees are caught there, they're simply sent back to the transit zone. Border officials say this is completely legal and in keeping with EU regulations.
Hungary is abiding by European and international norms. The right to asylum is being granted to these people. Everyone who wants to apply for asylum can do so in the transit zone. They just have to go through the border opening provided and apply for asylum there.
Human rights activists say this is just a sham, that it's not about controlling the flow of refugees, but about minimizing the number who come.
If the government can provide 36 million euros for the heavily armed military units patrolling here along the border, but doesn't have enough money to take in these people in suitable numbers, then you have to ask yourself where the government's priorities lie.
Back to the border crossing at Röszke. After weeks of waiting, the Amani family from Afghanistan are finally able to proceed. They're now allowed to enter the transit area and apply for asylum in Hungary.
Of course, I'm relieved, but it's still terrible that the border has been closed. Many refugees are stuck in Serbia and Macedonia, where women and children are suffering in these terrible camps, especially with the heat.
Many young men are suffering too, like 21-year-old Sedek, who was previously arrested and deported. They can expect a much longer waiting time, at least 200 days. Too long, he says.
I'm going to try to get into Hungary again illegally. The Hungarian police didn't take my fingerprints, just photographed me. It's difficult, but I have no other choice. But first, I'm going to Belgrade. There's no space left here.
In Belgrade, he wants to look out for people traffickers who can smuggle him over the border. His friend Haif gives him food for the journey, but doesn't want to go with him.
Also, I'm waiting, I think 50 days after, inshallah, I will go to Hungary.
Then he wants his wife and children to join him. And like nearly everyone here, He hopes to move on to Western Europe and Germany someday.